Hello, welcome back to Miss Bell's classroom. Please remember to enroll in my class by clicking the subscribe button. Today in class we're going to talk about different types of language usage. So we're going to talk about formal language and informal language. So I want you to think about, how do you communicate with your parents, maybe your siblings, your friends, your grandparents, people of authority, your boss, your coworkers. Think about, when you're communicating with them, do you use the same tone, words, or phrases? And how does it vary? So generally, when you're talking with friends, do you think that your communication is more formal or more informal? Okay, so you think it's more informal? Yeah, it is. It's when you're with friends, you're going to be more informal, and your language is going to vary. And when you're with, let's say, someone of authority or coworkers, do you think your language is more formal or informal? Yes, formal, yeah. So, however, communication with the purpose to entertain is generally informal, regardless of the audience. So, there are also a few times when an informal communication might be better to use when you're trying to persuade or inform, but it just depends on the topic. So things that aren't serious, you're probably going to want to be more informal. And if you didn't change the way that you talk to different types of people, you might run into some issues. So you always want to monitor, should I be using a formal or an informal tone? So we're going to go through some scenarios, and these are just general scenarios, and there's always exceptions to these rules, okay? So if I had the audience as friends, what would we say? Would we say your friends are formal or informal? Yes. Yeah, informal. If we had the scenario of a teacher, do you think it would be more appropriate to be formal or informal? Yeah, formal. If we had your parents, yeah, I would say parents are informal because that's your family members. What about a stranger, someone you don't know? Yes. Okay, formal, yep. More likely to use formal. What about your principal? Yeah, definitely probably formal. But remember that there are always exceptions to all of these. But these are just some different examples. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go over some differences between formal and informal writing styles, and this can also apply to speaking styles as well. So if we have formal and then informal. We're gonna kind of make a T-chart here. Different color. So if we said, when we talk about formal, your tone, you need a polite tone when you're speaking formally, but it's also impersonal. You're not going to really try to connect. Informal, the tone's more personal because these are your family members, they're your friends. When you use formal communication, and this is mostly for writing, you're going to want to avoid contractions and slang. But informal, so think about when you text and when you write a paper, or maybe when you make comments, you might do more informal. Formal would be more of writing like a paper. So you can use contractions freely and slang. So all of these would be acceptable things. So this might be with your friends, your family, people you're close with. This would be with people more of authority. Formal is also going to be more serious. Informal is going to be more casual, may have some humor. So you're always going to want to use proper punctuation. Here, an informal punctuation doesn't matter as much. See, punctuation is not as important. Okay. Can anyone think of some other things that we might say about formal and informal? Kind of compare, contrast them. Yes. Okay, so that's a really good thing. When you do formal, you want to avoid, this is with writing, avoid using pronouns such as you. Is there any others? I, me, we, and okay, yeah, I think that's all. Can you use pronouns in informal? Yeah, so you can freely say, you should do this, or I really like that. So freely use all pronouns. Okay. So it's just some of the things. I'm going to erase this and we can come up with some more together. Okay, so when you're doing formal, your sentence structures are going to be more complex. Whereas informal, your sentence structures are going to be shorter. They might use abbreviations and the structure will be much different. Okay, anything else that you've never noticed about formal and informal language? Yes. Okay, yeah, okay. So the word choices you make here, you would say they're more precise. Okay, so then what are your word choices like in informal? Okay, so your word choices might be more vulgar. Saying anything else? More vague. Okay, good. Where might you find formal language at? Where would you see that at? Okay, so like textbooks. Research papers. So like a speech done by the president maybe, or someone. Speech anywhere else? Yeah, so maybe legal documents. Okay. What about informal? Where would you see informal at? Excuse me. So like texts, emails. Do you think that you would use informal on your work emails? Or an email to like a teacher or a boss? No? Yeah, so there's exceptions for everything. But this could probably go both places. Anything else that you might see informal? So sometimes like magazines might be more informal. Okay. Where else? Okay. YouTube. Comments. Or any type of social media comments. Yeah. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is going to give us a sentence and an audience. We're going to decide what type of language is being used and would that language fit the audience that we're talking to. Okay? Okay. So, I'm going to give us a sentence and we need to decide, is it formal? And does it match the audience that we're talking to? Okay? So, say the movie was dumb because the ending didn't make sense. Okay, so this is our sentence, and I'm gonna say that our audience is talking to your family at dinner. So would you say that this is informal language, or would you say that this is formal language? Yeah, this is definitely informal. They're using contractions. If you're saying the word dumb, that's usually going to go with informal language. And do you think that this would be appropriate to say to your family members? Yeah, it would be, because you're going to use that more informal language with your family. Okay. Okay, so let's do another one. Please respect or no radio playing policy. Okay, so it's please respect our no radio playing policy, and the intended audience is a sign at the library. So is this formal or informal? Good, yes, it is formal. And do you think that this is an appropriate sentence to say to the library visitors? Yeah, I think it is too. Because every person that's going there is kind of like a stranger, right? There's not really a relationship built, so you're going to want to use more formal language. Okay. So, if I did this sentence, yo, there's no smoking here. And the intended audience is customers at a restaurant. So, yo, there's no smoking here. So raise your hand if you think that this is formal language. You might say this to your coworkers, your boss, a person of authority. Okay, raise your hand if you think that this is informal language. Okay, so this is informal. And do you think that it is appropriate for a restaurant manager to say this to his or her customers? Okay, so you don't think so? Yeah, probably not, because a restaurant manager is going to want to be more formal with someone that they don't know. Okay, let's do a couple more. So we're going to do this is going to be an essay on an ELA paper. my name is Sarah, and I'm writing a paper about why I like Harry Potter. So, what do you think this is, informal or formal language? Informal, and why do you think it's informal? Okay, so there's a contraction there. The pronoun my, or possessive pronoun my, and I. Good. So if you're writing this for a class paper, do you think that this is appropriate? Remember that when you're writing class papers, you're probably going to want to be more formal. Yes. Okay, so yeah, this is probably not appropriate for a class paper. You don't want to be using contractions or the word I or my in your class papers. Okay. Let's go ahead and do one more together. Okay. Let's do math is very hard. I never understood fractions. Okay, so math is very hard. I never understood fractions. So, do we think that this is more formal or more informal language? Yeah, so it is more formal. You can see the sentence structure is more complex. There's no fraction. There's no contractions. And it still does use the word I, but depending on the type of sentence it is, and this student here is talking to a teacher, so it will be more formal language. Do you think that this is an appropriate thing to say to a teacher? Yeah, so this does match. It's a good fit. Alright, well, thank you for learning about formal and informal language today. I hope that you enjoyed this lesson today and it helped you relax. Good night.